this is Heather Hoffman, and I'm here today with my first card using the brand new January 2020 Kit of the Month. It's such a fun kit, and I love the encouraging sentiments, and I wanted to put a bunch of them together on a card. And I love that big word, enough, paired up with the paintbrush. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of do a little bit of something different. I've done ink smooshing before, but with the paintbrush, I thought kind of doing a bunch of little bitty ink smooshing, kind of look like little droplets of paint. And I really love how it came out. So I'm using mini Distress ink cubes, and I'm just using a clear stamp block to do my ink smooshing. I'm using the corner of those mini ink cubes and just kind of adding a little circle of ink on there, and then using a paintbrush, instead of misting, I'm just adding a couple droplets of water. That way it keeps from getting too much moisture on there and having it smush too far, and it keeps each of the little mini smooshes kind of distinct and on their own. If I touch them together, they'll blend a little bit, but it's not going to have so much water that it just takes over the whole card front. So I just kind of kept going through all of my colors, alternating between building it up until at the end I was happy with it. The combination of distress inks I used were Festive Berries, Ripe Persimmon, Fossilized Amber, Mowed Lawn, and Mermaid Lagoon. I just love the kind of bright, happy spring kind of color palette. So I'm just about done there building it up. And again, I just kind of played with the colors and built around. I didn't really have any rhyme or reason. I wanted to keep it kind of a little bit random, and it kind of fit the feel of the card with that kind of artsy, artistic painted background. So I also have the paintbrush. I don't know if you noticed I had the large word and the paintbrush already pre-stamped on my watercolor paper. I'm also using watercolor paper for this, but I did the brush a little bit off the edge just to kind of fit everything on there. All right, now that that background's done, I also have some sentiments pre-stamped and prepared on here, and I kind of use several of the same sentiments from the kit, and I'm just going to trim them down into strips, and then I can use part of the sentiments because I kind of wanted to just reinforce that large enough message. So I'm going to trim off on one of them. I don't know why I did two of the "You Are Capable Enough," because I could have just used both halves of the sentiment, but I didn't think of that in advance when I did it. So I'm just going to cut off one of the "You Are" and then the other half of "Capable Enough," "Brave Enough," and "Strong Enough." And then I can mount these with foam adhesive over my background. So I'm going to put the "You Are" above the "Enough," and this kind of starts the sentiment, and then just build the other ones in kind of fun little angles underneath that large word. I think this, with that enough sentiment, it's just kind of like it builds on all of the things that you're enough. So it's a super encouraging message as well on the card. All right, one last one to put on there. And I had to trim off a little more. I left one of the words on that didn't need to be on there, and I didn't notice it till I was starting to attach it down. So at least I noticed in time, right? All right. So once I have all those adhered on, I wanted to add a little extra texture. Oops. And then I fixed that one. I felt like I was covering the G a little more than I wanted. All right, so I pulled out some glossy accents, and I'm going to add that to the handle of the paintbrush. Once this dries, it'll just kind of add a nice glossy sheen and a bit of different texture to the card front. And then at this point, I realized I needed some color on the brush. It was too late by now with my sentiments on there to do any ink smooshing and with the glossy accents. So this time I used that Mermaid Lagoon, and I just used a paintbrush to kind of build a little bit of color, so it looked like there was some color on the paintbrush, but also kind of spilling off the bottom of it as well. I think that was the perfect little finishing touch it needed. All right, that's it for today. Thanks so much for coming by. Have a wonderful day.